Well, so this will get to my final
Mhm.
question I want to ask you. You know, what gives you hope about the future? But I want to I want to answer this myself for you because we happen to be on this topic. So recently, Brewer is allowing students to work from home, work remotely, because they noticed that a handful of students have excelled at home. I think for the vast majority, it wasn't that.
Right.
It's
but a
not
few-
very good, but a few really took off, and it makes me think. So there's a podcast I listen to where the host is he grew up in the Soviet Union until he was like 13, and he said that the Soviet Union system, as soon as you show an aptitude towards something, they're grabbing you out, and you're kind of focusing on that field, you know. And he said you're constantly being accelerated, where he feels that the U.S. system,
marginalizes.
well, you're kind of held back by the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
Yeah, the slowest couple students hold the class back. And my girls complained every year in school. We're doing the same stuff we did last year. We're doing the same stuff we did last year. It's a nonstop. Where I look at the level they could be at if they had been allowed to
Accelerate.
progress at their pace. And I'm hopeful that out of this COVID thing, that becomes an option. Now, Brewer has an advanced program in this subject, and maybe my girls from Hamden can take that course load, and maybe they're not working from home in all their classes, because I think that's a mistake, because I think the social
Self-motivation. We're not all...
and the social aspect of school is
It's
extremely
very
important.
Extremely.
But you have your thing that you're excelling in. Here's an opportunity to excel, and I could see that actually turning into a thing that
Yeah.
gives a lot of help to
I
students.
think where the rub comes, as a country, our ideal is everyone has an opportunity.
Right.
The reality is we all have different aptitudes,
And
those two clash.
equity of outcome is equity of effort needs to also be considered.
And reward.
Right.
You know, and it's true. There are amazing stories of people who come from nothing and excel. But what's the drive? You know, and can we find a balance that is more productive than where we are now in public education? It's abominable what's happening.
Right.
You know, it really is. The teachers are being abused. The students are being abused. You know, it's not. It's got to change.
Yeah. So, what gives you hope about the future? What do you, future generations, your own future? Because I really want this podcast that I'm doing to be. So much of what I see out there is pulling apart, and everybody's separating. And I.
My
you know,
hope is that as I've been a student of history since in ministry, because I love the history, and if you read the Old Testament history, I'm right now I just finished Exodus, and the story is so hopeful, but what a bummer. You know, Aaron fails completely and builds the golden calf, and they forget all the rules that Moses brought from the Lord to them and just blows it. And they're going out, and it says, and it's one of these balances that there's always a blessing and a curse throughout the Bible. And the blessing is, if you're faithful, you will live in a land of milk and honey. However, if you don't do what the Lord says, watch out. And it's always there.
Right.
It's always a tension throughout. My hope is that the pendulum of history has swung as far as it can go.
Right.
I mean, you know, not to name names, but how far can we go to the left where we actually give money to people who don't work?
Right.
And expect those who work to pay for it without resentment.
Right.
You know, talk about a psychological dilemma for society. hopefully the pendulum's going to come back and not go so far to where, you know, you have a two, because the middle class is destroyed.
Right.
You know, why work? I can be
Right.
paid for it.
Right.
You know, I get so frustrated. You know, here your mother and I, we've worked so hard, and we have insurance, and we do, and they're saying all people are going to be covered, and they don't pay for it, and they have access to the same health that I do, and I've worked all my life to get access to good health, and so something's wrong with our system.
But on that line, it is nice that you're growing up central Chicago, in an area where the chances of you getting out and being successful are slim, right? You're in, and that's one thing off the table that they have to worry about. You know, at least
That's a good point.
but I also agree with you that I look at kids that get their parents give them everything, and they just don't respect it. You know, they get their new car and they're beating it up. You know, because they didn't earn it. They didn't. Where you see the kid that worked at McDonald's for 5 years and can buy this
And he washes
piece of
the
crap,
car.
and washes it every day, and
Yeah.
parks alone in the parking lot, so nobody's going to bump
Into
it. You know, there is absolutely value in earning something, and in finding that balance. And I'm with you that things and not. But I would say both political parties have both swung so far out that I'm hopeful that the center has to come at some point. The center
and history
is what
says all the history will.
right. That it,
And that there is a lot of negativity out there. I mean,
but so much so.
QAnon and so forth that are distorting things. But usually in society, truth wins out.
Right.
You know, that people will self-correct. I don't know if the American dream is still capable of surviving in our new world. It did look like for a while the goal was for other nations to become like the United States.
Right.
But I don't think that's anymore.
I think that was a mistake.
Yeah, I think that was a definite mistake. You know, that as if we can make Afghanistan like us.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean,
there was success in Japan.
right.
You know, and
Germany.
But I think I've always felt this way. Leading by example is the best way
Yes.
than telling somebody how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And I put a lot of blame on the secret agencies like the CIA and so forth that worked on an ideal, as we've been talking about, that just it's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. Like I'm not. Well, I don't want to get too political, but it's. I am hopeful, like you said, that people are so sick of the. I gotta believe, sick of the negativity, sick of the just
absolutely
having to question everything and not trusting it, and so I believe there's a want and a need for truth, and like I look at, we talked about last night that the news stations, and I would love to just watch the news and
without an interpretation of what's going on.
But because it's swung so far out the other way, that there's an opportunity there, and
yeah, I get so frustrated when I hear NBC News hasn't verified this, but
right,
you know, and I'm thinking, what are you saying? You know, you're speculating. That's not what we need.
right.
You know, it's just.
Yeah. But like you said, hoping for the pendulum to swing back the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always hope.
So I very much appreciate you doing this with me, Dad. I couldn't have more love for my father.
Thank you. But
You're a great role model. No, this has been fun. I wish it was a little warmer in here. I'm kind of chilled at this point. I probably shouldn't have wore shorts. But thank you very much, Dad.
thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah,
We'll do it again.
great.